Hello.
Hi, Lynn. Is this a good time to speak?
Hi, Alvin. How can I help
Hi.
you?
Okay, basically, we are currently working on a project with one of our key users in the FSI industry, and
Okay.
we need to pitch our services for GRC and data protection. Yeah, but the problem is we do not have the expertise to do so.
Okay.
As you know, with all the latest news on cyber breaches, internal threats, data leaks, and all these things, it's high time that my team gets updated on the latest in cybersecurity and technology that our business should focus on.
Okay.
Yeah, so I thought you'd be the best person to chat with to see if you can recommend any consulting firms to help me with this.
Okay. I think I can check and get back to you soon. Let me check with my team first. How about that?
Sure, that'll be great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Alvin. We'll catch up
No
soon.
problem. Sure, bye-bye.
See you. Bye bye.
Hey, hi Lynn.
Oh, hi, Richie.
Oh, looks like something bothering you. Are you okay today?
Yeah, I just had a call from one of our resellers. So he was asking for some recommendation on someone who can provide services for their data protection and as well as some consulting services, right, in GRC portion. So he has a tender to submit actually. So I'm just wondering who I can recommend him.
Oh, okay, perfect. Because in terms of some of these requirements, we do have several resellers and partners asking for such regulations as you mentioned, whether it's GRC or data protection. So definitely we can discuss more on that.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Oh, yeah, I remember you have a team of consultants who's always on the ground. So I guess they will be very familiar with what's the latest trend in the market, right? Yeah, can you share with me more about the latest trend?
Okay, sure. So as you know, in the last 18 months, we have this whole COVID situations. So a lot of organizations, the employees are actually working from home. So that resulted in a very hybrid workforce. So there's a lot of cybersecurity challenges as a result of that as well. So for example, in the last 18 months, we see a huge increase in terms of data breach, in terms of ransomware, for example. And the cost to manage them actually exponentially increase as well with the whole complexity of working from home.
Okay.
Yeah, and also a lot of organizations out there have to comply with the various regulations, whether is it in-country data protection or whether is it regional or global kind of regulations. So there's definitely a lot of focus when it comes to organizations trying to comply with these.
Oh, so in that case, what does Ingram have to offer?
Okay, so as you know, in the last 12 months, we have actually invested very heavily in our Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, and we built a whole cybersecurity consulting team across APAC as well. So in terms of portfolio, we actually do covers quite a fair bit in terms of end-to-end. So for example, we do the advisory piece of it, we do the deployments of complex cybersecurity solutions, and we do the day 2 optimization services as well.
Okay. Can you share more with me right now, right? In a typical environment, what is the common pain points or challenges that the end users actually faces?
Okay, so firstly, we are a technology distributor company. So a lot of organizations always have the perception that actually technology is the most important thing. But I think that is partially true in my view, because some of these things you need technology to be in place. But what's equally important in my view as well is the whole people and process side of things, because you need to ensure that you have the right people to manage the cybersecurity in the organization, as well as the various policies and processes to ensure that the organization at the end of the day are managing the whole cybersecurity posture, including the solutions in their environment.
So how does the internal organization, right, typically manage their own internal cybersecurity posture?
Okay, as you know, when it comes to cybersecurity, it's a very fragmented market out there. We're talking about hundreds of different cybersecurity products, cybersecurity brands, cybersecurity solutions. So in a way, it's very challenging for the end users to manage all these fragmented solutions out there. And typically, if you look into how an organization manage their cybersecurity, I would say I'll break down into 4 key areas. So the top layer is more from the overall governance, and that's where, for example, the organization CISO will think about how they want to manage the cybersecurity posture, the strategies, we're talking about what kind of policies or regulations. So it sets the tone in terms of how to manage the whole organization from a very strategic view, right? And then there's always the cybersecurity operations side of things. So that's, for example, things like detection and response, identity management. So there's more of a day-to-day BAU kind of cybersecurity operations. So of course, when it goes down to the very technology layer, that's typically, I would say, from a data center perspective, from a network perspective, application, as well as the end user side of things as well. So these are the 4 key areas whereby it is very important and technology plays a big part. And last but not least, we look into the whole ecosystems of all the various organizations whereby we work with a lot of partners out there, right? A lot of things that we do, for example, payroll, for example, we use third-party services, right? So we definitely need that integration between the organization as well as the various third parties that they have.
So if the industry is so fragmented, I think there must be many different ways to approach the issues, right? So what is Ingram's methodology and approach that we actually use to help our resellers?
Okay, that's a very good question. So when it comes to methodology, what we're trying to do here is we're not going to create something very proprietary that is only available within Ingram Micro, right? So the methodology that we actually develop actually comes from some of the industry's standards, whereby, for example, the NIST cybersecurity standard or the SAPSA standard, right? So the way that we build this methodology and approach, whereby we look at it from a very strategic top-down perspective, from a SAPSA perspective that looks into the whole security architecture. We also look into more from a very technical bottoms-up control. That's more from the NIST perspective, right? And we blend this whole methodology into our CRMA, or what we call a cybersecurity resilience and maturity assessment, that we actually done quite a lot of work for end users in terms of assessing their environment, in terms of how secure they are from a cybersecurity posture perspective. Hey Lin, so after explaining all of this, right, are you able to share with me in terms of how are we expanding our line cards in Ingram Micro?
Okay, so currently we actually have quite an extensive line cards in our region. Yeah, so just to mention a few key vendors, right? We work with key vendors like IBM, Cisco, McAfee, Palo Alto. Yeah, and recently we also signed up a few new vendors. People like Proofpoint and Sophos is one of them.
That's right.
Yeah, and at the same time, we are also aggressively expanding the footprint into the rest of the region without those line cards, and at the same time talking to many new cybersecurity vendors. So you should be able to see more vendors coming in within the next few quarters.
Okay.
Yeah. So Richie, so with that said, right, how does your services team, right, actually complements all these vendors?
Okay, so earlier on I mentioned to you about the security consulting portfolio that we have, right? So what we are trying to achieve here is to have that full end-to-end kind of services, right? So as we know, when it comes to cybersecurity professionals in the industry, it's actually very challenging for many of these organizations to even have their own in-house cybersecurity experts, right? So there's definitely not enough resources out there. So a lot of these organizations out there is actually looking for partners like us, Ingram Micro, whereby we'll be able to help them to do that full end-to-end life cycle. So what I mean by end-to-end, for example, right? So for example, if you earlier on you mentioned about data protection, you mentioned about GRC and things like that. So for example, we're coming from a data protection angle, right? It's not just about, okay, let's buy a DLP solutions and let's implement for them in the organization. So what's actually needed in the industry is more about the initial advisory side of things, whereby we can get our consultants to go into the organization, the end users themselves, understand what are their requirements when it comes to data protection. So for example, we look into things like what are the regulations that they comply to, understand what are their critical assets, so that we are able to build the solutions that fits each of our end users out there, because their requirements can be quite different, whether is it from FSI, whether is it from manufacturing. So they all have the same outcome. They want to do having that proper data protection, but the way to achieve it can be quite different.
Okay.
Eileen, I guess there's still a lot of confusion out there, especially in our reseller space, in terms of, hey, are we competing with them, or are we kind of competing compared to the big four, for example? So what's your view? I mean, what have you been hearing on the ground?
That's actually a very good question, because that's what we always get from our resellers and our vendors.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So Ingram Micro is a 100% channel model. So we do not compete with our resellers. In fact, we do not go direct to our end users. So what we do is we actually complement the resellers by working together with them and with our vendors to offer the services on their behalf. So of course, these are all on top of the day-to-day product management team's support, as well as the sales and the marketing support.
Okay, that's actually a very good answer to my question. By the way, Lynn, have you been to our Technology Experience Center in Singapore?
Yeah, I've heard about it. We just launched it last July, right?
Yeah, that's right. So actually we have built a lot of integrated solutions in there. So is that something that you want to visit?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Shall we take a quick look at the Technology Experience Center?
Sure, why not?
Let's go. Hey Lynn, firstly welcome to our Technology Experience Center in Singapore, the first in APAC. So we have built this Technology Experience Center, or TEC, to showcase and integrate our various cybersecurity solutions on top of the other solutions that we have, that we distribute in the market. For example, we're looking at backup, storage, cloud, automation, and more. So recently, we have also built quite a fair bit of teams in terms of integrated solutions that we can showcase to our resellers. So for example, the recent secure workforce to address some of the cybersecurity challenges pertaining to the COVID situations. So I think you can definitely bring your reseller over, and then we can do a demo to them.
Yeah, I think this is a very good suggestion, and I think I know what to recommend to my reseller. So let me call him now. Okay. Hello, Alvin? I think I know what to recommend to you. Do you have time to talk now?